Hello everybody and welcome back to more political chatter. In this video we will be talking about the state of the race, the state of the 2024 presidential race and how it has pretty officially moved on to the general election. So last night, Super Tuesday occurred. That is when a third of the delegates in each party were awarded, and I believe 16 states and territories for each party voted. As you can see, Joe Biden almost had a clean sweep, and American Samoa voted against him. And so, therefore, American Samoa prevents Biden from having this clean sweep of this Democratic primary that he would have wanted. I'm going to make a video just about this at a Jason Palmer appreciation. Oh my, appreciation. There it is, appreciation post for Jason Palmer, but he somehow won with 51 votes to Joe Biden's 40. He somehow won the American Samoa caucus. So therefore, Biden does not have this clean sweep that he would have wanted. However, that being said, just looking, oops, I guess we can't get on here we go. Just looking at, one result. In Texas, it was 84 or 85% for Biden and 4% for Marianne Williamson. So these states really aren't close at all. I believe the closest was Virginia. Marianne won 8% and Dean Phillips won something like 5%. But he is all but certainly going to be the Republican nominee. Not the Republican nominee, the Democratic nominee. Dean Phillips, the congressman from Minnesota who was challenging Biden in this race, citing his unelectability, Joe Biden's, he has dropped out today and endorsed Biden. Of course, he said if he wasn't viable by Super Tuesday, then he would drop out, and he kept his promise. Dean Phillips is out. There was absolutely no path for Dean Phillips to win this nomination. And then heading over to the Republican side, just today, Nikki Haley dropped out of the presidential race, effectively ending the GOP nominating contest. There is only one left. It's Donald Trump. He is the presumptive Republican nominee, as Joe Biden is the presumptive Democratic nominee. But Trump swept the Super Tuesday states that are not quite, just like American Samoa, going to Jason Palmer. Vermont went to Nikki Haley by a narrow margin. So she won it by 5 points. So wasn't quite a clean sweep, but some of these victories were, just absolutely incredible. Just to look at Alabama, for example, it was 83-13. Alaska, we have moderate liberal Republicans here. This was supposed to be one of Haley's best states. But no, it was 88 to 12. So it was clear that Nikki Haley needed to drop out. She would not have had the donors after this. She was already losing them after South Carolina, but now there is just no shot. So today she addressed supporters in Charleston, South Carolina, and she did announce that she is withdrawing from the presidential race. However, she is not endorsing Trump at this point. That also probably deserves a video of its own. She is not yet committing to endorsing Trump as the nominee. So we have our matchup. Donald Trump will be the Republican nominee. And I'm sorry, Jason Palmer and Marianne Williamson, but Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee unless there is some sort of switcheroo at the convention where they put in Kamala Harris or Gavin Newsom instead of Biden, like people like Vivek Ramaswamy are predicting. I think that's in the realm of possibility. I'm with them on that. Obviously it's unlikely, but I definitely think that's possible. But most likely, Joe Biden is going to be the Democratic nominee. So our matchup in 2024 is Biden versus Trump, and then depending on how well you think he will do versus Kennedy, if you do consider him a major candidate. So we have this historic, but just considering Trump and Biden, I don't like to leave Kennedy out, but right now, just considering Donald Trump and Joe Biden, how did we get here? That is the question that so many people were asking, and really, a whole ton of people, a whole ton of primary voters up until this point still thought that it was going to be some other matchup. They couldn't believe that it would be Biden versus Trump. They didn't buy that. Those who aren't as politically as informed as you guys watching this analysis packed video. So what that means is, they were still expecting a different matchup in November, but now we are getting to reality, and we are having a matchup of Trump versus Biden that really no one wants at all. This is consistently the matchup that Americans don't want. 70% of Americans say that they do not want a Biden versus Trump matchup. And who can blame them? Joe Biden is the one of the weakest candidates that the Democrats could possibly put up. He is 81 years old. He is incredibly unpopular. He was president during a very poor economy that Americans still do associate with him. And then when you look at the Republican Party, they're putting up their weakest nominee possible. An almost 80-year-old, he's 77 years old. He's completely unhinged. He says offensive things, tweets offensive things every day, and he is no longer seen as the populist working class champion as he was in 2016. So we find ourselves in a situation where, as Nikki Haley liked to point out, the Republicans are putting up their weakest possible candidate, and the Democrats are putting up their weakest possible candidate. So, of course, that is going to result in a Biden versus Trump matchup that no one wants at all, that Americans are tired of, that we already had in 2020, and that was a struggle by itself. We don't want a repeat of 2020, yet it's happening. So like Nikki Haley, I'm quoting Haley again, the first candidate to retire their 80-year-old president will win the election. And that is so true, except for the fact that it's over. We have our nominees. It's going to be Joe Biden versus Donald Trump, and then you have Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in the mix, who is taking advantage of the fact that, along with Cornel West and Jill Stein and all the third parties, but especially Robert F. Kennedy Jr., as he is staunchly independent and very staunchly anti-two-party system. But he is taking advantage of the fact that both Trump and Biden are hated, that 70% of Americans don't want that rematch. So he thinks, especially if he can get new voters to head to the polls this year, then he can find big major success. That will be tough for him, but we are somehow, as I said, how did we get here? We have gotten to a point where Biden and Trump are going to be their party's nominee. So, how did we get here? Well, on the Republican side, even though Donald Trump may be hated by the vast majority of American voters, he was able to capture his Republican Party in such an extraordinary way. And I must give credit to the Trump campaign itself. I mean, he went on the offense quickly. He ran a good campaign, and he announced very quickly, which helped him. He got in, and we can credit this to Ron DeSantis, because Ron DeSantis ran the worst campaign in modern history. He got in late before all the excitement about him joining the race was completely diminished. No one anymore was excited about Ron DeSantis getting in the race like they were in January or February or March, right after the midterm elections. So his timing was off, and his campaign was run horribly. There were so many tensions inside the campaign, with the campaign and the super PAC, that he wasn't really able to run a good campaign on that end, and he's a very unlikable politician, by far the most unlikable of this campaign season. He fumbled on the debate stage, he fumbled during town halls, he went viral multiple times for his awkward moments. So things did not go good for Ron DeSantis, and that the fact that he was really the only person that could possibly beat Trump. And mind you, that was more than a year ago now that he was seen as, the only one with a viable path to beating Trump in this primary. He was the only one, but he blew it. Haley really never had a chance at the beginning. And even though she did become Trump's lone opponent, later into the campaign season after Iowa, in New Hampshire and South Carolina and Super Tuesday, that really didn't mean she had any viable shot. The only viable shot of beating Trump that anyone had was Ron DeSantis before any voting started about this time last year in 2023. Not even, a bit earlier. But it ended very quickly after the Trump trials, after Trump was indicted and he was able to unite this Republican Party because he claimed that the justice system was being used as a witch hunt against him. So when that started, all of the momentum went to him, all of the attention went to him, and it was all sucked out of the Ron DeSantis potential at this time presidential campaign. So by the time he announced on May 24th, 2023, no one really cared. And after fighting through Iowa, he didn't even get to New Hampshire. He only won 20% in Iowa, which is one of the few states that DeSantis could actually do well, and he only got 20%. And he ended up dropping out on January 21st, 2024. I remember the day I was driving back from New Hampshire, and no one really expected this because he had waited, Iowa caucused on Tuesday. He dropped out on Sunday. The New Hampshire primary was on Tuesday. So he waited quite a while. It was looking like he would participate in the primary. I mean, sorry, I'm going too off track. That doesn't even really matter. So the point is, there was really only one time where someone could have beaten Trump, and that was Ron DeSantis. So Donald Trump, as unpopular among the entire general election electorate he might be, because of the faults of other candidates like Ron DeSantis and their inability really to unite behind one candidate, even though that wasn't as critical as it was in 2016. And got to give credit to the Trump campaign because of the efforts that the Trump campaign smartly performed, that the actions they took, they were able to unite this Republican Party quickly. This wasn't a bitter contest. Nikki Haley could have dropped out and probably should have dropped out a while ago, right after New Hampshire. She really never had a shot in South Carolina or Super Tuesday. So how Trump won this Republican nomination despite being so unpopular was by capturing the whole of the party, the core of the party, after the indictments, sucking that attention from Ron DeSantis, and he really never lost it. If you look at polls, exit polls, voters consistently say that they decided who to vote for a while ago. In 2023, like before 2024, most people say in these polls, despite the millions of dollars of ads Nikki Haley poured into these early states. So that means they were always with Trump, and that is how he was able to capture his party, by winning the core of the party right at the beginning, and there was no good enough candidate to stop that. It wasn't Haley, it wasn't DeSantis, it wasn't Vivek, no one did it. So that is how Donald Trump was able to capture his party. And then there's a very different situation on the Democratic end, where you only have one sitting elected Democratic Democratic politician in general, that being Dean Phillips from Minnesota, congressman from Minnesota. There was only one who was willing to challenge Biden, risk his political future, and challenge Biden because of the weakness, of the clear, obvious weakness that Biden possessed heading into a general election in November. There was only one established Democratic politician, Dean Phillips, to stand up to that and say, hey, we need someone else. You also had Marianne Williamson do it. You also had Jason Palmer do it. So no one, on the Republican side, you actually had candidates, and Donald Trump ran a good campaign, and his opponents did not. That is how he won. But Biden really didn't even have any good opponents because no one wanted to, scare the DNC and therefore, make enemies with the DNC and lose their political position. Only Dean Phillips and Marianne Williamson did that, and that resulted in Biden being the presumptive Democratic nominee, even though it is not looking good for him in the general election. So that is how they did it. We have the, Super Tuesday occurred yesterday, and we have this matchup that absolutely no one wants, but we have to live with it. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Cornel West and Jill Stein and all the others are capitalizing on this. We will see what happens. So thank you all for watching this video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time.